For centuries, a powerful myth has dominated history books, the idea that ancient Africa was a continent without great cities, without advanced engineering, and without monumental architecture. We were told that before European arrival, there were only scattered villages. But what if that story was a deliberate lie, designed to erase magnificent truth? What if I told you that deep in southern Africa, hidden from the world for centuries, stands a sprawling stone metropolis, a city built with over 1 million hand-carved granite blocks, without a single drop of cement, without any modern machinery, and most importantly, without any European influence? This is the story of Great Zimbabwe, one of the most astonishing, yet overlooked, engineering achievements of the ancient world. This isn't just a ruin, it's a testament to a lost history, a symbol of African genius that colonial powers tried to bury. So join me as we journey back in time to uncover the secrets of this lost city and restore a history that was stolen. Let's travel back to the 11th century. While medieval castles were rising across Europe, a powerful kingdom was flourishing in what is now modern-day Zimbabwe. At its heart was its capital, a city we now call Great Zimbabwe. This was no simple settlement. At its peak, between the 11th and 15th centuries, it was a bustling urban center spanning over 7 square kilometers, home to an estimated 18,000 to 20,000 people. To put that in perspective, medieval London had a similar population during the same period. This was a city in every sense of the word. It had distinct zones, a royal palace complex on the hill, a vast valley enclosure for the general populace, and the iconic Great Enclosure, believed to be a royal residence or a center for public ceremonies. This was sophisticated urban planning, designed to support a large, thriving society. But what truly sets Great Zimbabwe apart, what makes it a true engineering marvel, is how it was built. Imagine the challenge. You have to build a city that will last for centuries, but you have no mortar, no cement, no cranes. Your only tools are stone, fire, water, and human ingenuity. The builders of Great Zimbabwe, the ancestors of the modern Shona people, mastered an incredibly advanced technique called dry stone masonry. They quarried over 1 million granite blocks from the surrounding hills. But how did they cut them so precisely without modern tools? They were brilliant geologists. They understood that the local granite had natural fracture lines. By heating the rock with fire and then rapidly cooling it with water, they could cause the granite to split along these lines, creating remarkably uniform, brick-like slabs. It was a perfect fusion of natural science and engineering. These blocks were then transported, shaped, and meticulously stacked, one by one. Each stone was carefully chosen and placed to fit perfectly with its neighbors, using only gravity and friction to hold the structure together. The precision is mind-boggling. Let's talk about the sheer scale of this construction. The most famous structure, the Great Enclosure, has outer walls that are over 11 meters high and more than 5 meters thick at the base. These walls stretch for over 250 meters, making it the largest ancient structure south of the Sahara Desert. And these aren't just straight, simple walls. They are elegantly curved, a deliberate design choice that wasn't just for aesthetics. The curved design distributes the weight of the massive stone structure more evenly, preventing stress points and increasing stability. It's a principle modern engineers use today. Within the Great Enclosure lies the conical tower, a solid stone structure standing 10 meters tall. Its purpose remains a mystery. It could be a symbolic granary representing the king's wealth and power, or perhaps an astronomical marker. Whatever its function, its perfect conical shape, built with the same dry stone technique, is a masterpiece of geometric precision. When European engineers finally examined these structures centuries later, they were stunned. They admitted that the stability and craftsmanship of Great Zimbabwe's walls rivaled those of medieval European fortresses. This wasn't primitive building, this was scientific engineering at its finest. They even incorporated sophisticated drainage systems into the city's design, channeling rainwater away from the foundations to prevent erosion and collapse. Every detail was planned. So, who were these master builders, and what kind of society did they create? Great Zimbabwe was the capital of a wealthy and powerful trading empire. This was not an isolated kingdom. It was a major hub in a vast, intercontinental trade network that connected southern Africa to the rest of the world. What was their most valuable commodity? Gold. The region was rich in gold, and the kingdom controlled its extraction and trade. From Great Zimbabwe, caravans carried gold, ivory, and iron to port cities along the Swahili coast, like Kilwa and Sofala. From there, these precious goods were shipped across the Indian Ocean. Where did they end up? We have found evidence connecting Great Zimbabwe to the Middle East, to India, and even as far as China. Archaeologists excavating the site have unearthed Chinese porcelain from the Ming Dynasty, beads from India, and glass from Arabia. This completely shatters the myth of an isolated, dark continent. Africa was an active and integral part of the global economy for centuries before Europeans discovered it. The wealth generated from this trade fueled the kingdom's growth, financed the construction of its magnificent capital, and supported a complex society with a ruling class, artisans, and merchants. The city's very existence is proof of a sophisticated social, political, and economic system. But if this city was so magnificent, why did its history become so distorted? The answer lies in the dark chapter of colonialism. When European explorers and settlers arrived in the region in the late 19th century, they were confronted with these awe-inspiring ruins. The existence of such a sophisticated, large-scale structure, clearly built by Africans, directly contradicted their colonial narrative. Their ideology was built on the premise that Africans were uncivilized and incapable of such achievements, thus justifying their colonial project. To accept that the local Shona people had built Great Zimbabwe would be to admit that African civilization was highly advanced long before their arrival. They simply couldn't accept it, so they invented alternative histories. They fabricated stories, claiming the city must have been built by ancient Phoenicians, Egyptians, Arabs, or even the Queen of Sheba, anyone but Africans. For decades, the colonial government of Rhodesia actively promoted these false theories, suppressing archaeological evidence that proved the city's local origins. Archaeologists who dared to state the truth that the artifacts, building style, and human remains were all undeniably linked to the local Shona culture were silenced, discredited, or had their funding cut. It was a systematic campaign of historical erasure. It wasn't until the pioneering work of archaeologists like David Randall McIver in the early 20th century and later Gertrude Catton Thompson that the truth began to emerge. Catton Thompson's extensive excavations in 1929 provided conclusive, irrefutable evidence. She famously declared, "Examination of all the existing evidence, gathered from every quarter, still can produce not one single item that is not in accordance with the claim of Bantu origin and medieval date. The builders were, without a doubt, the ancestors of the local Shona people." Yet, despite the overwhelming scientific proof, the colonial myths persisted for decades. The damage was done. Generations were taught a lie, and a vital piece of African heritage was nearly lost to propaganda. The struggle over the history of Great Zimbabwe became a struggle for identity, dignity, and truth. Today, Great Zimbabwe stands as a powerful symbol. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a source of immense national pride for the people of Zimbabwe, so much so that the country is named after it. Zimbabwe means great houses of stone in the Shona language. But its significance extends far beyond national borders. It is a monument for all of Africa and for the entire world. It is irrefutable proof that Africa was not a continent waiting to be discovered or developed. It was a continent of innovators, engineers, and empire builders. It forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about world history. The story of Great Zimbabwe isn't just about ancient stones. It's about restoring a narrative. It proves that complex urban planning, advanced engineering, and global economic integration were happening in Africa, independently and on its own terms. This history matters. It empowers, it inspires, and it corrects the record. It shows us that the real history of Africa is far richer, more complex, and more brilliant than the simplified, often racist, stories we were told in school. The truth is, Great Zimbabwe is not an anomaly. It's just one of the most spectacular examples of Africa's lost and hidden engineering marvels. From the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela in Ethiopia to the great mosques of Timbuktu and the pyramids of Nubia, the continent is filled with testaments to ancient African genius. We've just been conditioned not to see them. But it's time to open our eyes and rewrite the history books with the truth. Africa's story is not one of absence, but one of immense, often forgotten, achievement. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to Great Zimbabwe. If you are as amazed by this story as I am and you want to uncover more of the real history of Africa's lost inventions, ancient science, and forgotten empires, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There are so many more incredible stories to tell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.